O'clock, we'll call the meeting officially to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Know that Joe's gone, he's sick, we wish him well, and Mr. Wells had a prior commitment. Review and approval of agenda, any questions, any changes? If not, can we get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Time for public comments. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak to any topic that is not formally on the agenda? Anybody? And it's, Donna, it's not always you, I'm just pointing past you this time. Don't panic. Come on up, sir. State your name and your comments. Please keep in mind that we'll allow you about 3 minutes to speak. We cannot take any action on anything you discuss since it's not an agenda item. Okay?
All right, my name is William Troy Klaus. My address is 720 Garfield Road, North Iola. So I spoke to the lady there was an article in the paper in regards to the raising of the property taxes, and she told me to come to the meeting. I hope I'm at the right meeting.
No. That would be the county appraisal.
Okay.
So that would be,
okay.
that's done through the courthouse at the county level.
Okay, all right. And then on the agenda is the recycling, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, the other one was the property taxes, and she told me to come to this meeting, so.
Gosh, that's county appraiser evaluates the property values.
Tomorrow morning at 8:30 at the county.
I can't get my truck in the shop, I can't go tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Moving on to consent agenda. I do have a couple questions. If anybody else has any questions. First question would be page 3 of the AP regular open item. Hate to be a broken record, but I've been watching ever since I asked about, are we giving our local sports stores shot at providing youth equipment, and I noticed another one for brick and mortar here, so I'd like to make sure we're giving our local businesses a chance to sell basketballs, footballs, and screen print shirts. And then the second question I have, or comment, on page 11, we have Iola Animal Clinic. We have a couple high dollar boarding cases. Are those related to some criminal cases? Mm-hmm. And are those items usually something that we attempt to get restitution for? Okay. I have no further questions. Anybody else?
I have one on page 14 for antifreeze for $17,000. Is that for the Port Sales?
Yes. Yeah. And you'll see a couple more go through on that before it's all said and done with. We're buying pieces of it at a time because of the cost. Trying to get the best price.
What was that mark in here?
The bottom of page 14 under Iola Works is antifreeze for $17,000. So I figured that's what it's for. I felt a lot of jokes.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, can we get a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I make a motion we accept the consent agenda.
A second.
Motion and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Round table, nuisance, dangerous, vicious dog ordinance. Who's taking that?
We have our prosecutor here, Brandon Cameron, and also the judges here. If you have questions for her also.
I didn't see her walk in. Welcome, both of you. Council, you see what's before you. This is a policy for nuisance, dangerous, and vicious dogs. It's almost like reading the tornado Fujita scale. So it's come up with a scale. I do have one question. Level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it looks like those jump over to definition. They are now a dangerous and vicious animal. Who grades that? Who is it? The medical examiner, the notes that would, the law enforcement? Who gives you the evidence that the dog rose to that level?
Sure. So in any dog
Talk
bite.
into the microphone.
This is my first time doing this, so this is quite obvious, so you'll have to bear with me.
Don will set you straight.
I'm more at home in a courtroom than I am in a civic hall, so I apologize. In most situations, whenever a dog bite occurs, a medical examiner is required to report that to law enforcement. And that information is therefore turned over to law enforcement, and law enforcement is able to look at that and say, okay, here's the animal, did the animal have rabies, something along those lines. This is the kind of bite that the animal inflicted, and in accordance to that chart there's pretty clear understanding of what constitutes what. So the officer should be able to use their judgment, and of course, as a prosecutor, whenever the officer ultimately makes that observation, I would look at the evidence as well and decide whether or not the officer is correct, or if I felt that it needed some type of mitigated or exacerbated punishment. But that's the essential elements of that.
Okay. So level 1, obnoxious or aggressive behavior but no skin contact by teeth. If it's a level 1, what becomes with that? Because it looks like that you could still define a level 1 as a nuisance animal, and just above that it says law enforcement, code enforcement shall be authorized to cite. How do you define obnoxious? Because as human beings, we can kind of be obnoxious to each other.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking of, if there's some bias there, I'm an extreme dog hater and I'm a law enforcement officer and I knock on the door and I'm trying to talk to a subject about the fact that she or he upset the neighbors and this feud's building, and their little Yorkie and yap, 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 yap. That's an obnoxious dog.
Absolutely.
Is that fair to give them a citation for that?
Well, the way in practice that it generally works is that by the time that a citation is issued, generally, our code enforcement or law enforcement has met with that person several times in order to mitigate that situation before it ever comes to the issue of having to be drawn before the court. I think, Judge, you'd agree with me, that's typically the way we like to handle things, is we want to be preventative versus, basically drawing someone before the court.
So they're warned multiple times before we get to that.
Generally, yes. In some instances where there's been past conduct and they have been adjudicated as an animal that is dangerous, there is no further warning. At that point, you're on notice, and so.
And the reason why I brought that one up, I'm just wondering if the obnoxious word could be taken out and just leave it aggressive behavior but no skin contact, because I really do think that people that don't like dogs could really make it, if you were biased, you could make it an issue of first contact and you're getting a citation. Our utility lady walks through yards and the obnoxious little dog barks. And I'm not saying that our local officers would be biased like that, but it does happen.
Well, and that may be true. I wouldn't file a case like that if I read it as a prosecutor, and I wouldn't expect in a situation where it was a one-off incident that the judge would actually side with me, and that's the reason why I wouldn't do it. And so I want to be as fair to people as I can, and obnoxious is kind of a weasel word, right? What does that obnoxious even mean? Well, unfortunately at law, we run into those kind of words all the time, like disorderly conduct. What is disorderly conduct? And so there's ways that we can define it, but it's kind of like you don't know it till you see it. And that's an unfortunate fact of law.
Can I add to that? So, when you're talking about an obnoxious animal, you're talking about something that is going to be on the Dunbar scale, it's going to fall into a nuisance category. There are obnoxious animals that are nuisances to people who live in the city of Iola. And so I think you leave that in there because you do want to have the ability to work with that kind of dog or cat or animal behavior. And what this is designed to do, the scale and these revisions to the ordinance, is to give law enforcement and code enforcement tools. There's always going to have to be judgment. We're not trying to take away the judgment from the folks out in the field. There's always going to have to be judgment, and there's always going to be levels of checks on people. One level of check on the, let's say, aggressive officer who doesn't like yappy dogs is the prosecutor. He or eventually she may not file the case when they read the report. A citation could come to court and I could dismiss it. So there are checks all the way up. But if you've got a situation where somebody is being driven crazy by an obnoxious animal, however that's defined.
I find crazy.
People,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. We can
believe
go
me,
on.
let me tell you, I've seen it. And so you're gonna want some tools like that for folks to work with out in the field. And when you're talking about law enforcement being called out, code enforcement being called out, so you've got two different kind of branches being called out. You want some things in here, and this goes to more than just the obnoxious question, but to the whole revisions in general. You want some tools for consistent application, right? You want your law enforcement, code enforcement to be out there looking for and looking at and applying a good, clean set of rules. So that probably more than answers your question, but gets to a little bit of why we are here.
Well, if you don't mind, there's one aspect, I think someone brought up the expense that the city has incurred by housing these animals that are considered dangerous, and we just have that expense item. That is due in large part because the way that our code is written now, there are portions of it which purport to be vicious animals, but which actually refer to dangerous animals, and parts of the dangerous animal part that refer to vicious. And this is just a lawyerly answer I'm about to give you, but I can make hide nor hair. And I know Judge can't either. The way I'm supposed to, in good faith, take that code and prosecute people with it. And so we've had to come up with creative ways to be able to meet that end. However, one of the issues is the procedure by which a person and their dog can get before the court and can seek redress. Currently, the way that is written into the code is very questionable in terms of speed. The way that it's written into the new proposed code is that at the next available docket day, that animal or that owner is brought before the court, and at that point would either post some type of bond or the court could set something that could be used to offset the city's cost should that animal continue to be housed.
Thank you. Council? Any questions?
So what kind of fines are we looking at level 1? I'm curious, because then we jump to really big fines here when we get into like level 4, 5, and 6. What does that look like? A ticket at level 1?
Yes.
And they're ticketed. And level 2 is a ticket, and then we start to get to level 3, and then we're talking about much more severe.
Yes. And right now, our code does have a nuisance animal part of the code, and the fines on that are not going to change. That would be the same as it is right now. I don't think we intended to increase the cost on that, and ultimately, our focus was mainly dangerous and vicious.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because that is the part of our code right now that is most confusing, and I think it was made in good intent, but it was not well drafted. And so The nuisance animal part would stay roughly the same with the word obnoxious potentially added in, but ultimately the same.
Okay, so there's a call for a dog bite, and the officer immediately takes the dog, takes the dog immediately. Is that typically how that works, or?
Depends. So there's different things that an officer may look at in the field. One would be, is the owner readily identifiable? Is this someone that I know that this dog is out there and that, it's Joe on the corner that owns the dog and I can get a hold of Joe? And the victim also has a say. If this dog bit him, but you know what, I was near that person's fence line or something, that would also come into play.
So everything's circumstantial now?
It just like, I guess, law enforcement in general, there's all of these nebulous facts out there that you have to draw in to make a legal conclusion. So,
Sure.
yes.
Okay, that answers my question.
I have a question about, two things. Well, one, I had a question about like context of the behavior. It sounds like you already take that into account when you listen to that. The other one is so if we take an animal in confinement and the owner doesn't pay, are we stuck with that forever?
No. Currently, the way that, I've got a list of our reports of our different animals that we've had, but unfortunately this year, and I would put a large part of it on the way that our code is written now, and you combine that with COVID animals. So these animals are starting to grow up that these people in COVID, had, and people are kind of getting sick of them, and so they're kind of letting them out, and it's becoming a problem, and we're seeing that bleed into our budget as far as housing these animals. Now, there's restitution that can be applied, that can be assessed against someone. That's what we do in every case.
Do you ever get it?
Yes.
Like as a percentage?
I would say more than 50% of the time
On dogs,
on dogs.
90% of the time.
Yeah,
Especially if they want their dog back.
Yeah.
that is the key.
Okay.
How much of a spike are we talking about since 2020?
Double.
Wow.
And double is, these cases numerically are probably 25 cases a year. But in terms of resources of the city, of law enforcement, of code enforcement, resources of the court, they occupy probably 25% of court's time. Wow. These are cases where people are very emotional. People love their animals, right? I mean, many of you probably have animals. I love my animals, right? I understand where people are coming from. But it's almost worse than if we were dealing with children or spouses. It is, people are pretty irrational at times and very emotional. So you're also dealing a lot in the field and in the courtroom with people who are very emotional. And then when you have an ordinance that is kind of hard to work with, that just kind of adds to it. It's one of the big reasons why we sat down and tried to come up with something new here, something that would be more workable. Because those situations, I had one situation in court this year where a felony was filed on a person in court because they behaved so horribly in court toward not just court and law enforcement, but toward the victim. So those are the kinds of things that we want to clean up and avoid. Anytime there's a dangerous dog coming into my court, what I want is for that dog not to come back as a vicious dog. Because if that dog comes back as a vicious dog, then I'm probably going to order that it be put down. And I do not like doing that. But we live in town, we live close quarters. People are very different in how they take care of their animals and how they discipline their animals. And the COVID animal thing, that is real. The people who got animals and who now maybe are not home as much as they used to be. And so somebody else is letting that animal out. And we've had people this year have to be life flighted away from the scene because of an incident with an animal happening in the city of Iola. So it's getting to be more frequent and more severe. We're just trying to do what we can. We can't fix everything, but we can maybe fix a little bit of this. So that's what we're
Wonderful
doing.
history is helpful to know.
Yeah.
Well, and with the state park coming into play, animals are going to be before the court, I think, in a, unfortunately, we're going to see a lot more of that than we had in the past, given the park and the nature preserve, everything that we've got out there that we can take advantage of now. And so we worked with our law enforcement officials, we worked with code enforcement in drafting this. It's been in the, how many months now? It's been about a year in the making, this proposal before you today. And at every point on the way, we asked for input from our local law enforcement and our code enforcement. And I think I don't think they can give a seal of approval right now, but if they could, I bet you they would.
We also looked at what a lot of other cities are doing. We pulled out a lot of ordinances from comparable communities. And this is not just our problem. This is everybody's problem. And by that I mean other cities and communities. I've got this problem in other courts I'm in too. And so if we get this one figured out here, I might take this and take it down the road and try to sell it to some other cities.
There we go. Council, any other comments, questions? Matt, what else do you need from us on this?
Well, if there are no, any more questions, then you can approve it tonight if you want to, and if not, we'll put it as a consent item on the next meeting. But really, if no one has any issues, might as well just approve it now.
Doesn't sound like it. Any issues? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'm just gonna check something. There were a couple little
Typo errors, yes.
cleanup items.
Yeah, that I have fixed. I won't have you sign a copy until I get the perfect one to you.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve General Ordinance 3524.
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
Thank you.
Thank
hope-
you, thank you.
I hope it's a
very
good
much.
working tool and helps
It will help
process
us
go a little smoother.
immensely.
Yeah,
We cannot
thank you
enough.
so much.
You bet. Thank you for coming and explaining to us today.
Absolutely. It's nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you all. Moving forward, recycling discussion.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll take this one. Well, the last meeting, Mayor wanted a scaled-down version. Well, here it is. We being, it was me and Corey, and actually we did this when Jason was gone. He was still sick. Because Corey and I did it the next day, when it was fresh in our minds. So, we had, and I don't remember the discussion from 3 weeks ago, if there was a discussion of having roll-offs available and just having material dropped off. Well, we went ahead and fleshed that one out, and you have it in your packet today. We went ahead and just started Googling recycling roll-off containers. So the containers themselves would be enclosed, they wouldn't be open, and they were $12,000 a piece. We'd get 4 of them, so the initial cost of $48,000 for those, and they would be for plastics, cardboard, glass, and aluminum, and people can just drop them off at a site that we haven't decided yet. We have a few spots that the city doesn't own. We didn't want to spend someone else's money, so we didn't presume that someone would say yes. But we do have a spot in mind we think would be a pretty good one, should we decide to do this. Those roll-offs, after they are filled, will have to be taken somewhere. We don't have the trucks to do that or the staff to do that, so we would have to hire the staff and purchase the truck. That's the $225,000. We Googled roll-off truck and it popped right up. We didn't know how much the cost was. $225,000 popped up. So $273,000 initial cost. That'd be buying everything new. Again, I suppose we could maybe whittle that down a little bit, while buying used, or if you want to change the dumpsters themselves. And yet we still don't know where we would take it.
On your operating budget that you provided, you've got an example for a CDL employee driver at about $45K. Your bottom expenditure summary, personnel, is that for an additional employee?
No, 66.5, that would be a full-time employee. We actually put this person on the crew, so when that person was not driving the truck, he would be on Jason's road crew. And that's, so that's 66.5, that's benefits included.
Right. So that's additional on top?
Yeah,
Well,
That'd be a revolving yearly besides.
Right, that
fuel, et
expenditure
cetera.
summary, that bottom section, Steve,
Yeah.
is included the salary at the top.
Okay.
Basically, we took a
Well, that's
snapshot
what
of
I
our
couldn't
budget
figure,
sheets.
I couldn't figure out if that salary was dropped down into it, so.
Yeah, it's figured in that, it's
Okay.
just a snapshot,
Okay, let me
like our
break that
budget
down.
sheets we do.
Council, I'm interested to hear your discussion on this because, as you know, we've gone from what the citizens of the community have done to trying to determine if we're going to participate in a recycling program. One of my concerns remains cost. I'd like to see a recycling program. I don't have a problem with participating in a recycling program. But when we first started the discussion of attaching a potential $15 fee a month, I can't do that, especially at this time when less than a year ago, we had a 9 to 25% property tax increase, and they've just announced we're getting ready for another big property tax increase.
We raised the trash $3 a month.
This,
not long ago.
This is much more appealing. There is still a cost. So what if we could par this down even farther?
No, we've thrown around, we've thrown around some ideas. Number one, we can find someone to haul that off for us.
Well, and that's, I called an individual, and he's here today. I'm not gonna-
That would be,
I question that, if we could
Yeah.
look at saving us the $225 on a truck that, I mean, I assume you're not gonna haul them until they're full, so that we save funds that way. If a plastic container doesn't fill for 2 months and that truck's just sitting there, that's our trucks get used more than that.
Well, the thought behind that, Steve, is you integrate them into street and alley, they help during chip seal.
Right.
That's the
So-
only way that it's feasible.
Where I'm at with it, I like the idea of the drop-off containers, but I think we could part down even more. And I would like to, if the council's desire is to continue to look at recycling, I would like us to now include talking to individuals that know the business. Where would we haul it to? Who would take it? What could an individual bid it for to be the pick up, take it, and be done with it? We don't have any employees, we don't have any trucks.
So we
We just own the dumpsters, and that's all we own.
So,
Can I bring up a point?
Bring it up.
I know I probably overstepped, but I'm gonna talk to Mitch Gardner with the county. They are starting a program. I don't like seeing duplications of services. He said that they're collecting batteries, which they're doing that so they can contain the fires at the landfill. But right now, they have a guy who brings his own bins in, and they're collecting plastic. As soon as the weather was going to dry up, he was going to bring bins in to collect cardboard, and he would bring the bins in and haul them off. I think we need to talk to him about it. Also, do we know about a permit for recycling? He said that KDHE requires a permit for recycling.
they went through his landfill, I don't know if they.
I don't know if we'd, I don't know if we'd,
Roll-offs.
I've been landfill.
He was going to check for me on it to see next time he talked to him, but they were waiting on their permit before they got too far into it. But he said they were going to start out slow, and I asked him about a building, and he said there's no way they're going to have a building with enough people. That's why he found this gentleman that would come in, bring his own bins, collect the plastic and cardboard, and haul them off, and recycle them himself.
To say local gentlemen?
Way it sounded.
Yeah, I think it's, I can't think of the name of it, they're out of
Kenny
Humboldt. Yeah.
Kenny Shuttle was Southeast Kansas.
Yeah, he mentioned he was talking to him, but there was another guy that Kenny put him on to that would, that had the bins and stuff and would bring them in. Had no cost to the county or anything. All they needed was a space to place them at out there. So maybe if we talk to him, he could place them here, his own bins and stuff.
Where is Humboldt doing just cardboard, or are they doing plastic also? Just cardboard?
Cardboard.
And where do you guys take yours?
You know, I'm not exactly sure, but we take it to B&W, It is bailed at B&W and it is sold by B&W.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that was the other thought I had was with Humboldt doing recycling and Iola looking at it, and that's duplication of services. How can we all pull together?
Yeah.
Now, it sounds like we have two options to look at. One, what is the growth? What is the county actually going to do with that? Is it viable? Is it taken up? And two, I'd still like to look at just us owning, and do we take those and dump them at the landfill? Is that our destination if we make a collection site here? I see you. I don't mean dump them at the landfill, I mean take them to the landfill's recycling bin, Karen. Thanks for your look, I finally figured out why you gave me that look. I did not mean collect recycling and dump it in the landfill.
Well, Vic said that's the biggest problem he's having is finding somebody who'll take it, you know, so that's.
To take the recyclables.
Right.
We could put out an RFP, I suppose, that says hauling and disposal is at somebody else's cost, and here's what we've got. I did have another group, it wasn't Terry, but it was another individual that rents roll-offs contact me after our last meeting, interested in the same thing. So I don't know, maybe that's an option.
I think if it can drive the cost down and we can still participate in it, I could accept that. I don't favor throwing another utility out there when, you know, we're gonna be looking at water rates and other rates we're gonna have to realistically look at, and we've got to save where we can. I would like to participate, but drop-off containers in and around Iola with a pickup service by a private entity, and it sounds like, go ahead and research what the county's doing. Other input, council?
I kind of feel the same way. I am completely not in favor of adding one more penny to our utilities. Even $5 a month, that's $60 a year, and for people on fixed incomes, that's the difference between a tank of gas or a prescription for their household. I believe we do need to participate with somebody else, which I have said this from the very beginning. I believe it should be a county-led initiative, and the city of Iola participate with it. I was on the same wavelength with him. My notes were, we can make the initial investment on the roll-offs, but find somebody to contract with to haul it off. I just cannot get behind adding another utility, even at $5 a month.
I can't be for adding another electric or a utility operating fund to our utilities, because my reason is we have a looming 54 highway project costing multi-million dollars, and we have to save all the money we can to keep our loan as low as we can.
I'm not ready to give up on recycling yet. I do think that I agree with your ideas, at least this one time. But I think it's as presented, this is too expensive. And while I think some quibbling with, you know, a full-time employee, you know, is required to haul them. And I think these costs are a little on the worst case scenario side, but I think there's ways to reduce this. And there's also ways to coordinate some of these costs. Like an idea I heard proposed, and I'm not gonna take credit for it, it wasn't me, someone else, had said, you know, a lot of these counties that have recycling programs come to our landfill and drop stuff off at the landfill. Well, you know, they have recycling programs, they can take these back, and so we don't have to haul it. So ideas like that, but that would involve, you know, coordinating with the county and those other entities as well for making the whole program work. And so I'd like to look into that more. I'd also be interested in the sites where that would be and how that would work out.
So it sounds like the majority's still interested in some form of a program, but whittle it down as much as you can cost-wise, and still be an effective recycling program.
cutting cost-wise, does there need to be 4 roll-offs? I mean, what do we know as far as the need for recycling for plastics, cardboard, glass, aluminum? Which is the most popular, which is the least? Would we need to have 4 roll-offs, and would that affect the cost?
And like, what if we just did cardboard, that's it?
Correct.
One
Cardboard
roll-up?
and plastic are the two main ones.
To me,
People
yeah, I would
want-
say plastic is up there for me, what I would think, but.
If they recycle aluminum, they do it themselves by taking it to Ray, so they get some money out of
Right,
it.
that's what I'm wondering, if
And
we're taking
glass.
gray and we're putting cardboard in compost
So
piles.
the question is, if you have
If we had to
a
pick.
container for just plastic and it's not sorted by the person hauling it, then a recycling place wants it separated,
Yeah,
correct?
so
Somebody
they'll
wants to
reject it.
receive it, so then you would have, then you'd be back to needing somebody to sort it out.
If you bail it, take it to Kansas City, and it's mixed plastic, they will throw it in the burner and burn it and charge you $150 per bale
There you go.
with bitumen. So he said you have to make it really, whether it's number 2 plastic, which is your cloudy, your milk jugs and soap jugs and stuff, or it's clear, your water bottles and stuff, you gotta keep them separate.
Okay. Any other direction? Does that give you enough, Matt? Or? Yeah. Joey? Anybody?
Feel it way down.
Anybody want to speak to what we're talking of, since this is a public portion?
Sure.
Hold on, Dan. Donna actually had her hand up first. Then you can come up, Dan, after she's finished.
When I first read that you were only doing a couple of things, I thought, what a waste of my money, my $15, because it would take me 4 months to have anything really to take out. Wouldn't be worth my gas to go out. But I'm against our city workers doing it because you're talking about the big bucks and we need it for the highway. I think the highway is very important. But if we don't start, we have to do, to me, we have to do more than cardboard, we have to do plastic, we have to do all of this stuff, paper. I throw away paper every night because I take the paper, but I don't want to give up the paper. But if you can't recycle it, to me, it's not doing the whole thing. And I think you're thinking right to look at other functions, but I think to recycle all the things, I used to have boxes, and he helped me unload them sometimes. And I really think it's important to do that because I listen to a lot of the science things, and they're saying we're ruining our earth. For me, I'm not going to be around. For your kids, you're going to be around. I think we've got to think of something and get people on board to do it. And I think the county and us could do something. But I think it's a necessary thing. I don't want you to give it up. I won't be around to see it, but it's important.
Thank you, Donna.
I will say that she brings up a good point, though, in terms of newspaper. In case people don't know, though, that ACARF does utilize newspaper, because when we have leftover newspaper, we take it to ACARF, load it up by the trunk full, and take it out there for the animals to use.
ACARF uses newspaper for the animals if you want to take
Yeah.
the newspaper out there.
And so that's just like how there's raised with the aluminum, ACARF is a great way to reuse the newspapers.
We compost ours.
Good to know that. Dan, did you still want to say something?
So I've been involved with the volunteer recycling since I've been in town. I'm Dan Davis, by the way. A fair number of people are accustomed to having a drop-off site. And if you ever want to take a look at what we have over at the old chicken rendering plant behind the Pete's on Highway 54, I'll show you around. I'll show you what we've got and how we've utilized the building. It took work to do, absolutely. What we were trying to do was collect what we could and then bale it, and then contact a larger business that's out of Illinois and talk with them, and then they would let us know. They would send a truck, they would pick up bales, we would have to help load, bales. then they would take it. All of these are commodities, so it fluctuates on how much you're gonna get for a bale of baled, whatever material it is, cardboard or plastic. We were taking all the metals over to Ray's. And a lot of times what we were trying to do was, when we would get that money, is give that to the schools, because that's originally what the Rotary program did with aluminum and metal. If you can bale items and keep them separate, that's what's going to, like you said, not get it hauled to someplace and then say, this is mixed, we don't want to deal with that. We'll just, burn it. So it does take time, it takes effort. It would take some coordinating, it would take some planning. But I think ultimately it would be worthwhile. What Nick was referring to was an idea that some of the people that have been involved with the Allen County recycling program discussed. We've got these counties that bring refuse and other things to our county to use our landfill. If those trucks then go back empty, and if they do recycling in their communities, could we work with them? And this would be a coordinated effort. I understand I'm only talking to the city here. It would be a coordinated effort. Let's load the recyclables into the trucks going back to those counties that do recycling. Then they would, and however we could work it out, if they have a program where they're baling and trying to sell, then they would potentially have some earnings from what we collect. So, kind of have to work together. And I understand sometimes cities and counties within the same county don't always work together real well. Now you're talking about getting a whole bunch of counties to agree on some sort of a program. But I really appreciate the help that the county has offered and the city has offered us in the past, and that you're still talking about it. And like I said, if you want to see what we had accomplished over there, talk to me, let me know. I'd be happy to show you what we've done and what we were doing. And this past Saturday, I think we finally got out and picked up all of the cardboard totes that we had out of businesses, because that's another thing that's a sticking point. Well, the city does not pick up trash at businesses, so that's out of our hands. But yet, all the cardboard that comes from businesses will eventually end up in the landfill if we don't keep it out. And regardless of how amazing that landfill is, it's not limitless. And whatever the city and the county can do next, all the cities and the counties can do now, in the long run, it's going to help, it's going to pay off. And I was talking with Nick, because Nick helped pick up those cardboard totes with us, and we appreciated that. I was saying, Nick, in our town, we've got several places where I can buy gasoline at a pretty good price. And there are several places in this town where I can buy tires for my car at a pretty good price. And I've bought tires here. And they've been good tires, I've had them put on. But whenever I stop at a stoplight, or whenever I stop at a stop sign, just because I have access to cheap tires and relatively inexpensive yet, doesn't mean that I peel out every time and rev my engine and go crazy, see if I can get up to the speed limit in 2 seconds. That's going to be wear and tear on my car, it's going to be wear and tear on my tires, it's going to be a waste of gas. So the way I drive reflects that. And it's kind of the same way with this idea of recycling. We can either rev our engines and gun it and just throw everything in the landfill, and eventually we're not going to have that. We're not going to get other counties being able to bring things. We're going to have some place to take what we have. But if we recycle like we drive, with an understanding and idea let's keep this vehicle as well-maintained as we can and as efficient as we can, then we're gonna have that vehicle longer, and we're gonna be able to use it longer. And so any efforts, I think, that we put into this, number one, it's gonna be appreciated by maybe not everybody, but certainly a lot of people. And it's going to extend the life of that landfill. And it's going to, help people be more responsible for the land and for what we leave behind for our kids and our grandkids. So, ask me questions, come out and take a look at what we've done. We have a little bit of expertise in it from a volunteer's perspective. But let's keep exploring possibilities and options. So, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. One more, give you a few minutes.
Hello again.
Hello.
So I have moved from Oregon to here. I'm not comparing Oregon to Kansas, but Oregon on the West Coast, they're big on recycling. The company that is out there is called Republic Services. My city never had utilities, garbage, and all that rolled in one. So we only had one choice, it was Republic. So including garbage that came once a week, not twice a week, residents were paying $65 a month for their garbage. It's including recycling. And the Republic basically paid to send out flyers, what you can and can't do, because they went and either sold or whatever to the companies overseas, and then that went to India or whatever. Now India, I guess, is no longer those countries are no longer buying it. But if you raise the rates, like I'm on a fixed income and the taxes are gonna come, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna own my home. Because I have to set aside right now $250 a month to pay the property taxes. And that takes out from my meds, my mom's meds, or like you said, young lady, gasoline. I'm for it, but I don't know how much I can pay. My neighborhood, they can't afford the $15 or whatever it is, because some of them are young families in my neighborhood. And recycling is a good idea. And I don't know if you were gonna do individual totes for everyone. That's what Republic handed out. You got one tote for glass, one tote for newspaper, and then they went also by size of your garbage cans. Here, you can put as much garbage out as you want there. You were limited to the size of garbage cans, from a little dinky one to a big one. And they charged $55 just for the can alone. But I really honestly don't know what's gonna happen with everything piling up and, spending. And I try to make improvements to my house, and I'm getting punished now for trying to fix up a house. If they say it's nice, then I gotta pay more. So I'm sorry.
Thank you for your time. I think we have direction, and I think we're trying to be as effective recyclers as we can be in our thought process, and it's not a dead issue. I think the agreement is we're going to proceed with looking into some sort of a recycling program. Thank you all for attending. Appreciate your time.
Keep talking to us.
Pardon?
Keep talking to us.
Thank you. All right, warming cooling stations. Councilman?
You're not gonna try the last thing, okay? All right, so before you is the warming center proposal. Honestly, what took so long was just taking it from my brain after meeting with the group and just typing it up. I do want to say thank you to Marsha, because I know she's here. She's a wonderful saint for putting up with me and waiting. But before you, we met Marsha, myself, former Councilman Kinder, and then Jason Trago, emergency manager for the county. Jason has a wealth of knowledge in this area. And to start off, this is what the proposal is just to be open during office hours, 8 to 5. because my understanding is during the daytime, we don't necessarily have to have somebody there. I'm sure administration would like to have somebody there just in case something were to happen. With the recreation center, we've got the recreation office there, we keep an eye, but with the Bass Community Building, we don't necessarily have an office there. Also, with the 32 degrees at or below 32 degrees, that seems to be the norm throughout all warming centers. I did not put a proposal yet for cooling centers, just because that's a little more hit or miss. But what's before you is what is before you. I think we could eventually grow, but I believe it's either state or federal that prevents us from being able to do overnights because we do have to have security. And other things. I know there's a lot of community churches are warming centers, and that is the church choosing to do that. It's not coming from the city. And Mayor, you had suggested looking at private businesses, but at the end of the day, the private businesses are going to be wanting money for using up their utilities and taking up space. And so it's just not promising practice to utilize private industry.
The library usually posts on Facebook that they're available. Is that something?
I did not include them because I don't know how they actually fall under the city fully. Because I think that's through the Southeast Kansas Library System is how they designate themselves. So this was just looking at more just what we have as a city to offer, and whether it's using KIKS or KOAM to get the information out. The only one I knew that published anything within our size in our area was Fort Scott. They do have a policy for this. But I also reached out to other cities within Kansas and then looked at some of the real big metropolitans that having to have this on the regular, so as the kids say.
So we provide nothing but the building, right?
Right. The building and then the heat, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
This last cold front we had, do we know if we had individuals looking for warmth?
I don't think we had any contacted me.
I know I've seen some regulars on the street that have their backpacks, and you see them daily.
And there are some cities in Southeast Kansas that I think kept track of it, but they had maybe 4 to 6 of their citizens. But this is just to have, just in case.
I could see the library getting more because.
Well, I think the library
You can do
actually.
something- you can do
right.
something in the library.
They do. Yeah, the library does keep it up.
Yeah, ever since this was first brought up, the library's
Yeah,
stepped up,
internet you can use.
and they often post that they're available, and they show a picture.
And we've got other places here in town, like the college is open access as long as it's business hours.
No, the library did close on the ice day, so
Yes.
Right.
they do not always. I just
Okay.
don't want to advertise that as a place.
Right.
Right.
All right. Well,
And I would just leave that to the library to post themselves.
sure.
And same with any other non-city.
Appreciate you looking into it and coming up with something, because it's,
And the cooling centers,
Safe and sorry.
that's not part of this because I think every single city has a different degree that they go based off. 32 degrees is pretty easy because that's the freezing point, melting point, what have you. But in terms of heat, to one person, 70 degrees is too hot. To one person, 90 degrees is too hot.
okay. Any questions, council? Thank you for your time. Thank you for those who assisted with you. All right, council, are we ready?
How much time do you want?
We thank Carla for the team. The first time.
5-0 or 1-5?
1-5.
Mayor, I'll move the city council recess into executive session for 15 minutes pursuant to personnel matters of non-elected personnel, KSA 75-4319B1. The purpose of the executive session is to discuss an individual employee's employment and shall include the mayor, city council, and human resources director. The regular meeting shall reconvene in the city council chamber at 7, my brain's not working, 7:09?
11.
Yeah, 7:10 p.m.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
The same as mine.
My brother wears size 15 and a half.
bought shoes every time you turned around, didn't she?
For me, I'm just 11.
Oh,
My brother was 15 and a half, so he was the fraud.
All right, following the executive session, there'll be no public discussion or motions made, so we are ready to move to council and administration reports. I think I was over here last time, so we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. All right, so hopefully everybody's been paying attention to the news and the sports reports that are coming out. The women's basketball team is ranked 19th in the nation. They're 18-4 right now. They're number 2 in the conference. Just an amazing team. And so there's 2 more chances before postseason for people to come out and support those kids. Those kids have given their all to our city for the last 2 years. And so this Saturday at 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock are the games against KCK. It's also homecoming, so you'll get to see me all nice and dressed up for once. And then also sophomore night is the 28th, Wednesday the 28th at 6 and 8. Women and men play at those times respectively. But it's just a great opportunity, and it's been great also. I like using the word great. Just to see the community come out and just get involved in the atmosphere. This past weekend was a knockout, drag-out battle with Neosho. So it's always good to see that rivalry continue into the college round. But hopefully people can come out and see us. And then just a reminder is that if you haven't already, to get your dog and cat tags, is that right, or is it just dogs?
both.
Both. Make sure to get those.
Yeah. Are they doing the different country foods this year?
My report's done, Mayor.
Can't ask you a question?
No, we're not doing that. After those 2 years, it's been difficult to get the kids to actually participate and go in and help Cindy, versus them just thinking that she can do it, but she's never made it. So we decided to nix that for the time being.
All right. Thanks for your report.
I have nothing.
I have nothing either.
I want to thank the awesome crew that did something to our road. I just want to give them a big kiss for that. Yeah, thank you. Driving on that probably 20 times a day, so I'll keep that short because I know that's anyway. Also, wanted to point out to everyone to please go vote for our city flag. I myself did that just today. And if there's a representative from the newspaper here, maybe we could prompt people.
How do we go vote for that?
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
It's there just in the city utilities building. What's the name of that building?
City Hall.
That's just City Hall. City Hall?
Have it on Facebook.
I mean, I have to actually we can do it on Facebook as well.
Yes.
But it feels so much more.
Vote early and vote often, like the Chicago people. Is that?
Yeah, we checked their ID, made sure they were citizens, and putting through the process.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take a drop of blood. And
I just was saying, I've had about 500 people tell me that they appreciate the repairs to Highway 54. It also makes me, and I appreciate too how you guys jumped on that.
Yeah.
Like the second you got approval from KDOT, that next morning, that was torn up.
I can't believe they got approval.
And I like that you did it before they could change their mind, right?
I did make a phone call that was
So now we need to sabotage other areas that we're waiting on their approval.
Not on video, not on video.
And it also kind of reminded me of, we've had these Highway 54 discussions. There's some people who appreciate, yes, this will need to get done. Other people are like, it's not bad. It reminds me of the frog in a pot, how, you put some frogs in a pot, you turn the water up until it's boiling, but they don't realize they're getting boiled until it's too late. And so now that, that section of highway is fixed, and it's so nice. And it makes you kind of appreciate, okay, the highway doesn't look that bad, but when it's all done and you get to drive on it for the first few years, I guess it was kind of, needing it. It's one of those, you just get used to it.
It's still boiling.
Yeah. You get used to things being bad, is what I'm getting at. That's all that I.
Really starting to soften in that morning water.
There's a few spots that are pretty soft and it's cut pretty bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Doug. Mark?
I just want to add, appreciate you fixing the highway. Also, I stopped by the utility office and saw the renovation. That was
Yeah, looks nice, doesn't it?
It did.
Yeah, it's still not done.
Hopefully hopefully our glass will appear
Yeah.
soon.
Roxanne's every time, or out every time I go in now.
She was out when I was there, but the others were nice. Let me in and show me.
I'm probably in a meeting. I was
Or
there
at
for lunch.
lunch.
She was there, I can vouch for
That's all.
that. She checked my ID.
Marty, anything?
Print.
Just, the 54 highway we got updated, and we'll probably plan to do the other half at some point. The grates are still in good shape on the other side and not failing yet, so, but we'll keep an eye on those. The airport sewer project that we're combining with the county, it lets March 12. We'll see how those bids come in. And then Cedar Brook, third edition, they poured some concrete in the last couple of weeks. They're slowly but surely getting to it, and we're gonna work
Curbing or roadway?
roadway. They'll do the curbing last. But I think they're gonna pour another small stretch of it this week. Haven't talked to the contractor yet, but that was his plan last week anyhow. And then, if you guys are interested in the chamber annual dinner, it's March 14th. Just let myself, Roxanne, Carla, somebody know, and we'll get you
Do you know where they're having it at? Because
here at the rec building.
Okay.
Yep. And that's all I've got, Mayor.
Next quarter. Matt, anything else?
Nothing for me.
Roxanne, anything for us?
I do. I've already talked to the paper tonight. We're gonna start a huge campaign to let you all know that your card bills are going away soon, and you will be receiving an actual envelope with your bill in it. So as many people as you can tell, please tell. I know, yes, sir?
Can I go paperless?
We're getting there, we're getting there.
You don't love me.
I know. It's our program. We're struggling a little bit because we're not on the cloud. Our company
We can solve
doesn't.
that.
I know, we can.
So does this increase the cost to move to the envelope?
You know, from what I've tried to figure out with postage, because we can do pre-sort, which we do now, and as expensive as the cards are getting, it's not really.
Yeah, okay. That's-
We haven't purchased the folding machine, stuffing machine yet. I know my department's probably not happy about that. We are currently tearing bills apart anyway. We probably will eventually get to the folding machine, but I wanted to get it started just to see how we go. Your envelopes, and I have talked to the press, she's gonna put a picture in for us. They will say utility bill enclosed on the outside of your envelope. It's just gonna be hard for those of us who've done it for years not to see that blue card or the yellow card, whichever one you pay off. They're both.
Plus you can include something in the envelope.
We
if you
can,
needed to.
and also there's more room on a full-size sheet of paper versus the card. And we're required by KCC to put those gas messages on there every, 6 months. So those will be, we manually stamp those now where we could print them right on there. It will help.
So to save cost, also the water department notices that go out and things like that, could those be included with the utility bills?
There are rules about those,
Okay.
and actually, we don't have to mail those any longer.
Oh,
Not the water department ones, because they can be put on your,
The placard on.
they can also be put on your websites, and as long as information, we do stamp on there, it's available on website, so we don't mail that one. The gas notice that we send out has to be separately mailed.
oh, okay.
It's just,
So it'll stand out.
It's a
Yeah.
KCC thing.
yeah.
Roxanne, were we ever, speaking of utilities and everything, were we ever in jeopardy like the other cities around us in terms of the utility cards going missing in the mail?
Yes, we lost.
It's happened since I've
We
been.
we did lose a whole zone
No, we didn't. Okay.
through the mail system, and they found them.
I was just wondering because I've seen
Yes.
that pop up on social media.
Yes,
so-
that was a problem, yes. And that's part of the problem with postcards, because they're getting so rare, and they do slip into magazines, I understand that. Just be aware, let people know, we will try to advertise as well as we can, and yes, Nick, we are so working on that, we really are. Hey, the fact that we've got online billing and phone billing the way we do has been a great savings. Our foot traffic is really down, people can pay people pay bills at weird hours of the day now, so, it helps. I think it helps the community, and it's also helping save us on a little traffic, and they can access their dollar amounts, so they don't call as frequently either. We are seeing some shortages on LEAP this year, which is the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. I don't know, the state hasn't told us why. They have just really cut down on the dollar amounts they're sending. I do believe it's because last year they sent out 3 payments, so they did send out more money around the state. So I think they're kind of cutting back a little bit this year. We're trying to help people as best we can, try to keep their utilities down, but it's usually too late after we have a cold spell, but that's all I have, I think.
Good. Get the word out, appreciate it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion adjourned, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everyone.